Hey everybody, welcome to today's training. This is TJ with ShopBot Tools. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a training here on setting safe Z heights and starting points. I know this picture next year going to show here is oh no for sure. There's nothing more aggravating than either bottoming out your Z or going too high and losing position and one, breaking a bit, two, digging into the material where it shouldn't be. And all of the above, and many, many more stories I'm sure we've all have. So let's look at a few videos first, showing some mistakes that happen with Z heights. And then what we'll do is we'll look into the ShopBot control software, and we'll look into the VCarve Pro software of how we can change and set up our very own custom Z heights and different positions for starting and stopping these files. So with that being said, let's take a look here at the goods. So first things first, here is going to be on a desktop machine. And as we get ready to get started, we bottom out up on the top, lose position Z, and then instead of going down, it went all the way through the 2.5-inch material and sunk the whole bit in there. So there's got to be a way around that. And I know a few of you are watching that going, I've done that before. Let's see, here's another one just to look at. We've got a setup here out back where we have a dual Z on a buddy. Well, look at how this guy picks up extra far above the Z before his drilling. Look at the other bit that's sticking down here. When it goes over, that bit could run right into one of those clamps if that wasn't set up just right. It's still a little too close for comfort in my opinion. Also, you got clamp handles and stuff over here, so we're going to talk about having a different start and stop position with your file. That way you don't have to worry about going over top of those clamp handles ever. And then finally, the infamous snapping of a bit. It can happen so fast, and no more bit. It's fun to watch until it's your own bit and your own project. So here's some little wedges that are holding this board in place, and we need to be able to pick that bit up and get it out of the way so it doesn't run into that and snap into pieces. So with that being shown, this is where we're going to go with today's training. Hope you'll be able to get something out of this. Let's get started here with just looking at a video of the machine. The first thing Z that you're going to want to mess with is the Z height that it picks up before and after it starts running a file. There is a safe Z setting in the ShopBot control software that we can set up, and then there'll also be a separate one that we set during the middle of a VCarve file. So let's take a look here. This is on a full-size 4-foot by 8-foot ShopBot, and we'll be referencing 3 different sizes, but they all do have Z0 plates. And just to reference with this is the C2 routine where I'm setting my bit safe 0, so I know the reference between the end of the bit and the top of the material. And that comes as a standard 1-inch setting. The safe Z pull-up is pulling up to 1 inch above where you zeroed. And where you find that in the ShopBot control software is under values, cutter values. So VC is your quick command. And if you look down there under safe Z pull-up, it is 1 inch. And the default is 1 inch. But there might be times where you've got a really long bit and you don't have as much Z to pull up to, or there might be times where you have stuff out on the table, clamps and things that you need to get around. So this is a variable that you can change. So for instance, let's change it to 3 inches so you can see what a larger safe Z pull-up would be. And this would be used, say, in a file where we've got clamps and different hold downs on the table that could be in the way. So I'm now going to run another C2 and show you the safe Z pull-up here. There's the machine going down, and here it pulls up to the 3 inches. there's a C2, but the safe Z pull-up has been changed to 3 inches. So it's now 3 inches above where it was zeroed. So now notice there isn't any clamps or anything on this table in this situation. It's just a big open table. But here you are moving that Z axis around, X and Y, I'm sorry, and you're seeing that it's got a 3-inch play. So this is where the machine, when you're before you run a file and after you run a file, when it goes back to its home position, or you're just telling it to jog or move around. I'm just using keypad right now, but if you were to type in JX to a certain distance, it's going to lift to that safe Z height. And then at that safe Z height, it'll just move. So if you have long bits and thick material, you're going to want a smaller safe Z height. If you're using real thin stuff, and I'm going to show you how to set it up to have a smaller safe Z pull-up, which means less up and down travel in the Z, which could be more efficient for cutting larger and multiple parts. Alright, we're looking here at just a standard setup of a VCarve Pro or Aspire file. And we're not too concerned about what we're drawing or anything here. We're going to see what it looks like in 3D preview mode and see if we can read what the machine is going to be doing before we even go out to the ShopBot. So we just have our standard drawing of 2 circles. We'll go over to the toolpath side. I've created a simple profile toolpath just going around these 2 bits of these 2 circles. Added some tabs so the pieces don't come flying. Added a ramp just so it's easier on a compression bit. And we'll just go in here and take a look at preview at what's going on. So a lot of us go here, we hit preview all, we see that it has tabs, we're happy, we move on. We're ready to save and put it out to our ShopBot. But really we need to take a look at a few other things that are going on here so we don't end up with our problems of bottoming out a Z or running into a clamp. We need to look at some of our start and stop positions. We need to look at our safe Z pull-ups. So let's step back here a little bit just to this 3D file, or if I turn on my toolpaths, I can see where a few things are going on here with this. Let me just reset this so we can see it. Just off these different colored lines, I can see what's going on, what's going to happen out on my ShopBot before I even walk out there. I see the start of this red line right here is up a fixed distance from the top of my material. I see that it starts there. It comes down to a certain depth, which is this green line. The green line now is the drop where it's starting to plunge down. This turquoise line is where it ramps down in, and then the blue is actually being cut, and you can see the up and down for the tabs. So there's a lot going on right here. So let's take a look at why are these colors and lines the way they are. First of all, where does this starting point come from? This red up here at this distance. Well, if I look over here under Toolpaths, the very top thing is Material Setup, and I look under Set here, and this brings me to this screen that shows me the material thickness, starting points, rapid Z gaps, and home and start position. So first of all, we'll start here at the bottom, home and start position. It's saying that in the X it's over 0, the Y it's over 0, and the Z is 1. So that would explain this right here in this corner. We can see that that's our 0, 0 for our X and Y, and then we see that that red line is a certain distance up from where we zeroed it, which is 1 inch. So that's where that came in place. So what else do we have going on here? This red line plunges down, does its cut, and then it moves over to where its next one is. So here's a line that we have, this red line traveling above our material. So this is in between cuts. This is picking up out of the material, going over to the next position, and then plunging down in. And we get that from this distance here, this rapid Z gaps and material. So some of you are looking at this and you can see the picture, the Z1, Z2. What is this determined and what is all of this exactly? And really the best explanation is if you look under help contents, and I don't know about you guys, but I read a chapter out of this every night before I go to bed, so I can tell you that on page 122 is where I can go in here and it talks about material setup, and more importantly to what we're focused on right now is I can look here at the rapid Z gaps above material. So right here it's pretty much just saying the height of the above the job, which is safe for the cutter to move at a rapid or maximum feed rate. So whatever our feed rate is, so we'd say however many inches per second that it can jog around, it's going to lift that high off there, and it's going to then jog around to the next spot before it needs to plunge. And to read more into these, please refer to this. For what we're going to do today is we're going to leave both the clearance and the plunge to the same distance, and then we're going to come in here at the end of the training and mess around more with some of this start position and putting it in different spots. So that's under help contents. So here's our file, and we see that we've got a 1 inch above. We see that it's at 0, 0. This red line is moving at 0.2 of an inch above our material before it plunges back down, and instead of just a straight plunge, you see this turquoise line, which indicates that we have added a ramp to our tool path, which is right here under ramp. We have a spiral ramp which is spiraling all the way around, and then we also have tabs here, a 3D tab, which is where we can see this little triangle here. So let's take a look at this cutting, and then we'll come back to the file. So here it is. There's the board on the ShopBot. Again, the dust collection has only been removed for video purposes. Don't do this at home. And here we are at 0, 0 above the board. It was at 1 inch. It has plunged now down to that 0.2. You can now see it's starting to ramp down into a deeper distance as it goes around. It lifts up where the tab is. It lifts up where the tab is. Now it pulls back out of the board, has the 0.2 distance, is what we had set it for, before it moves over to where it now needs to plunge back down and in. So that distance of that 0.2 can be changed. Maybe we're lifting up around some clamps, or maybe we're lifting up around some uneven wood material. Now it lifts back up to that 1 inch and moves back to its 0, 0 location, which is the home position of where we established it. We never set anything up special. We just had it move back there. And this is all stuff that can be changed in your file. So we saw it start at 0, 0, 1 for Z height. It go down to its 0.2 clearance Z, make its cuts, lift back up, and return back to 0, 0, which is where it's 0 right here on the board. So that file is exactly what we just looked at there. And we can watch it again here in preview, and it will do exactly what it just did out there. But it's nice to be able to look at this with this clicked on and see these different lines and notice, okay, hey, I'm going to be plunging down to that distance. I'm going to be starting here. I do have my tabs. I do have my ramps. So this 3D preview is very powerful to use. And then this material setup, we're going to move on to next, is changing our home and start position and also customizing these gaps. These might come stock like this on your software, but all this stuff is editable and changed to make it more beneficial to you and your file. Alright, let's take a look at something that's a little bit more custom here. So here's a custom jig for North Carolina shaped cutting boards. So you might find yourself with projects down the road where you've cut out in advance all the stock material. Then as your orders come in, your custom orders, then you'll have to change, the name. So that's why it's a quick turnaround. You got just a quick V-carve that you have to add to them and then move on. So let's take a look now of what we're going to be having here. Instead of our 0, 0 position being down here in this bottom left corner where we normally have had it for most of our stuff, look where the spindle is before it actually starts this project. So let's go ahead and play this video. And just you'll see what we're doing here is I would put this in and it would be a blank, and then you would load the file. You go to the VCAR file, you'd add the person's name, and then go ahead and run it. So I'm just doing an air cut here for the video purposes, but notice where I started my 0, 0. It wasn't at 0, 0. That was my start position. Does not have to be 0, 0 on the part. It can be at a predetermined location. So the benefits of this is that start position being back out of the way. As soon as this machine is done running this file, instead of opening the keypad and jogging it out of the way for me to remove my material, or going jog X to 36 inches to move it out of the way, When this file gets done, since it has a different start and stop point, it will actually pick up and then move to the back right corner, where then the operator can easily pick up the blank that's in there, pull it out, blow out any sawdust that needs to be there, and then go ahead and put the next blank in. So having that as my start and stop position is all I've changed. I have not changed 0, 0. 0, 0 is still down in the bottom left corner. What I have changed is my start and stop position. So you can see I've made a label here for X so I know which way it lays on the machine, and then reference this file. So this file might only be used every once in a while, but here's the jig. You just come in here and change the name to what it needs to be, and then you go ahead and make sure you have your V-carve toolpath. This would just get changed. Hit recalculate. It recalculates the toolpaths, and then again now I go to preview this. Look what we have going on here that's different than before. I don't have my little red line starting over here at 0, 0. When I look at this as a big file, overall file, that's clearly still my 0, 0 as far as the way the part's drawn. But under material setup now, notice I have a home / start position of 24 inches in the X and 14 inches in the Y and 0.1 above where I had zeroed my Z. And it's not 0.1 above the material or the spoil board. It is where you have it specified here as where you're zeroing off. So that's 0.1 above, and then you can clearly see my start and finish point is over here out of the way. And the reason for this is simply efficiency. That spindle moving over there out of the way before it even comes, before it's even fully moved out of the way, I've already got the next blank in hand. As soon as the spindle stops, then I pull that blank out of the jig and put the next one in, walk over to the machine. I've got it preloaded for the next set of names. I just go File, Part Load, Enter, and it's ready to cut. And then while that's cutting this one out, I'm blowing out any sawdust that is on the one that was just cut and getting that prepped for the finishing process. So this is a good advantage to doing something that's efficient when you have multiple parts, is change that home start position to a location that's out of the way. Not meaning you're changing your 0, 0, you're just changing your start and your finish. And also, I've got a very small clearance. There's no clamps in the way on this. There's nothing sticking up out of the way. The screws are sunk down in. The material is the same thickness of the jig. So I have just a 0.1 rapid Z gap there, so I don't have to pick up very far. The more it picks up and down in the Z, the more time it's going to take to run the file. And in this case, this is an efficiency file that I want to cut as fast as I can without sacrificing quality. Alright, let's finish up this training by looking back to where we first started. We looked at a couple of these oopsie files where things went wrong. Now that we've seen what we can do in both the ShopBot control software and in our V-carve software with setting our different clearances and starting positions, let's see if we can look at these files and fix what we did wrong. So let's take a look at this one first, where we have a 2.5 inch thick piece of foam. We got a 2 inch long bit, and we've only got about 5 inches of travel on this machine, on this desktop, but we have a very large pickup, Z pickup height, which throws off, makes us lose position because it picks up to its limits, loses position, and then tries to plunge where it's only supposed to plunge just a half of an inch. We'll let it speak for itself here. I know, never a fun sight. So let's take a look at that file. So here it is in 2D. We saw it down here starting at 0, 0. It lifted up, came over, it lifted up too far, topped out, lost position, came over here. It only had lost position in the Z. As it goes to plunge down there, it plunged way too deep. So let's look at this toolpath. I have my start position down there in the bottom left corner. if I look at this, I can see there it should be 4 passes, 1, 2, 3, 4 to get through that foam. So there's no reason that should have plunged that 1.5 bit all the way through that material. Sorry, the 2.5 inch bit all the way through that material. But look at, now that we know what we know, look at where that start position is, way up there. Why is that like that? Well, because right here we have it specified as a home position of 0, 0, and 3 inches. So 0, 0 is our X and our Y, but 3 inches up in the Z. So what could have happened here? Well, one is we could have just clicked, looked at the 3D preview, said it looked fine on the 3D preview without taking into account our machine's limits, which the software doesn't know because you've got several different size ShopBots that you can hook this up to. What probably happened right here would be whoever was using this software last, and whether it's just you using it on your own computer or it's a shared computer, most of these values you'll see between these, when you do your different toolpaths, it keeps what was used last. It keeps the numbers in there, which is really nice for when you're duplicating stuff and trying to make quick toolpaths. And it also does the same thing here. It's going to keep whatever you used last, your last file. So if I said, hey, that is way too high, I don't need that, and I said 0.25, and I hit calculate, it says recalculate all your toolpaths. I do. It moves my start point down. But just to show you how the software does hold these features, I'll save this, I'll exit out, and when we just start a brand new version of VCarve Pro here, I'll create a new file. It holds in there the last material and everything that you set up, and what it'll do over here when you go to toolpath is now it's kept whatever the last time you saved as. There's your 0, 0, and 0.25. So maybe the last time you ran a file you had a big Z pull up, which obviously didn't work in this case. So that's how we would fix the file there on the desktop with the foam going too deep. Let's look at this other one that we had, where we're doing the Skills USA plaque. So this goes over here and it hits the little wedge because the wedge is sticking up further than the piece. So this is a mock-up jig where the students would come over and bring their thing, get it cut, and then quickly remove it. Well, going quick and breaking bits do not go hand in hand. And as much fun as this video is to watch, it is not fun when it's your bit and it's your job and you're in the middle of doing this project. So let's take a look at how do we get around what happened in that video. So here is the Skills USA jig, and like I said, the students will bring over their front piece of wood, we'll lay it in there, we use these wedges to tighten it, hold it in place, and then we V-carve the Skills USA logo on it. So there's the logo. I can go in here and I can preview that and make sure I click on it, preview that. Okay, it looks good. But before I got excited, ran it and said, okay, it looks good, I need to come back and evaluate this a little bit further. Let me leave that toolpath turned on. And what do I got going on over here? I got this guy starting back here out of the way, which if we look at our previous example with the North Carolina cutting boards, that was really nice to have it like that because it moves it out of the way. Same thing here. It will move that Z out of the way. That way we can quickly pull off this plaque, put the next students in, get theirs carving, and then get them back to their timed project that they're working on. So on this file here, that must have had too low of a Z gap, so we would want to raise that up or move our Z position. So if I went and looked at this, yeah, look, I have a clearance of 0.1 and 0.1. So that's how far that's picking up above the material, 0.1 distance. So if I'm using 1/8 inch material that's only pocketed down there 1/8 of an inch, and I have 1/2 inch thick wedges, yeah, that's sticking up further. So what I would want to do here is a couple different things to fix this. One is you could just simply increase the home position of the Z height, increase these up to a distance that you know it's not going to hit, and hit recalculate. It does say recalculate all your toolpaths or this will not take place, so I need to make sure I hit recalculate. It's now raised that up to a distance that's clearly higher than my wedges. So that would work there. Or what I could do is look for where the start and stop point is of this file, where it actually starts and stops on the vcarve file, and I could from that point have that jog over, I could have it move over to one of these positions that's not above this clamp. But for me, this was a simple fix of just taking this here and changing our rapid Z gap to 0.5, 0.5. I wanted to keep my home position back there out of the way so it was quick to wedge and unwedge these. And there's a lot of different tricks out there for getting these different Z heights, but just remember, in your SB3 software, VC values cutter, you can go in there and change the safe pull-up, which will be before and after the files run. That's when you're running around in keypad, or if you're running around and jog, telling it to jog to certain areas. When you're in your vcarve or your Aspire, check your home positions, check your Z clearance. That's the kind of stuff. You start working with different thickness materials. One day it's 1/2 inch plywood, the next day it's 3/4 inch foam, 3-inch foam. You're going to want to go in there and just double check all your settings, because the software will keep what you used last. So it's kind of us users that need to go, hey, what was I doing last? Let me preview the 3D, let me analyze the lines, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do before I go out to my machine and start breaking bits. So hope this was a good training for you. Thanks everybody for showing up. We'll see you in 2 weeks.